Against all the evil that hell can conjure, all the wickedness that mankind can produce, we will send unto them only you.
Saving your people will not bring you peace, only make the burden you carry worse.
For millennia we have survived, made others sacrifice in the name of our prosperity. Who are you, a human, to defy our traditions?
Chapter 1, From Whence It Came. 30 years ago, this December, ID Software released their latest game, Doom, and since then, gaming has never been the same. While it wasn't the first shooter, it was arguably the most influential of its time, kicking off an era of modern gaming showing that a game can be longer and more complex than what was originally thought, while still having an iconic look. With Doom's most distinguishable feature being that it was in 3D, which was unparalleled by other RTR games at the time, designed for running on consumer hardware. When the design phase of the game started in late 1992, the primary sources of thematic influence were the movies Aliens and Evil Dead 2, including some partial influence from the Dungeons & Dragons campaign the devs were playing at the time. And although the primary objective of the game was simple, the players just had to locate the exit to move on to the next area, conveniently labelled by an obvious red exit sign. But where the addictive gameplay came from was the journey the players took to get there, avoiding monster pits, pools of radioactive waste, crushing ceilings, and locked door puzzles. However, the best parts of the challenge in Doom were its monsters and how the players were to rip and tear their way through to victory. There are a total of 10 different enemies, ranging from possessed humans to the infamous Baron of Hell, for the players to slaughter with all manner of weapons, spanning from chainsaws to shotguns to plasma guns to the all-killing BFG 9000, the most notorious weapon of the Doom series. So it was clear before launch that this game had potential, but no one could have guessed how influential, how popular the game would have become. A developer at ID Software stated, "We fully expect to be the #1 cause of decrease in productivity in business." You could say they were, selling more than 3 million physical copies and a further 1.5 million copies via shareware, a then version of what we would call an online store by 1999. With almost 10 times that of the free copies of the first chapter being installed. With an estimate of 15 to 20 million people playing the game in just the first 2 years, it was so popular at one point more people had Doom on their PCs than Windows. These numbers, though very little compared to today's markets, were massive for an era where this form of entertainment wasn't popular with the media and parents alike. The fact that people still play the early Dooms till this day shows testament to how popular the original games and the following games are, with the first game being the most modded game ever. With some of its fan base finding many strange places to play Doom, from smart fridges to modded ultrasound machines to scientific calculators, to the fans there is no place they can't play Doom. Along with its players coming out with some unique mod ideas, one of my personal favourites being Revenant Bus mod, created by the YouTuber Marfitimus Blackamus for Doom 2. The premise of the player, or the bus slayer, driving a bus on a 400-mile journey to Purgatory with the bus going at a constant 66 miles an hour. Simple, right? Well, it's not quite that easy, as the player must take the journey 3 times. Oh, and did I mention that a Revenant spawns every 7 seconds on the back of the bus? Oh, and you don't have any weapons. So punching the Revenant to death is your only choice. The devs had never expected the level of creativity the Doom franchise would spark in its player base. Although the Doom franchise couldn't keep producing what was essentially the same game every time, so in 2004 ID Software developed a game that strayed away from the traditional gameplay loop of the main line. Chapter 2, Not So Fast and Furious. Doom 3, a game like Marmite, you either love it or you hate it, but what's made it so different? The devs for this iteration of Doom decided to focus on the horror element, making it more like a survival horror, like the game Half-Life, which released 2 years before development started in 1998, changing the normally fast-paced run-and-gun feel of its predecessors with a slower, more methodical form of gameplay. Similar to its predecessors, Doom 3 was a technical masterpiece of its time, using dynamic lighting and shadows with an extensive use of bump mapping, giving it an almost futuristic visual. Due to this, the game was very hardware intensive, needing a high-end PC just to run it on medium graphical fidelity. It was so extreme that the game became a benchmark for the gaming community to judge on how powerful the PC was, based on the graphic quality it could run Doom 3 on. Though the Doom franchise was controversial media, this was the first Doom game to spark controversy within its fan base, with the general opinion being that it's a good game, but a terrible Doom. Though, what was to follow was to be far worse. Doom 4. Not the 2016 Doom, the never-released sequel to the original series. The game was set to be based on an all-out war against Hell, but when the trailers dropped, there was a huge backlash on the content they showed, as it looked like a Call of Duty game with a Doom skin over it. So, ID scrapped it and started work on Doom 2016. Chapter 3. Eternity Has an End. It had been 12 years since the launch of Doom 3, the game in question being Doom, dubbed Doom 2016 or Doom 4 by its fanbase and critics. This new installment was meant to help revitalise the franchise, putting a modern spin on the core gameplay of the classic Dooms. The response to the game was overwhelmingly more positive than Doom 3, with it also inspiring a new wave of cosplayers, as the collector's edition came with a wearable Doomslayer helmet, along with graphics of high enough fidelity to really be able to capture the rest of the Praetor suit. Due to the popularity of 2016's Doom, ID Software decided to continue their resurrection of the series, releasing Doom Eternal in March 2020. Although ironically, after the release of its two-part DLC, The Ancient Gods, ID Software decided to draw the curtain on the Doom series, rounding off its story in Part 2, going against what the name suggests, or perhaps what the title really meant was that the series would live on eternally in the hearts of its fans. Like 2016's installment, Eternal was positively received within the community, with new graphics, new game modes, new movement techniques, and improved gore system, allowing the players to literally rip and tear apart their foes. The game, although with its new additions, wasn't without fan service for its older fanbase, as classic enemies make their return in full HD. But perhaps is this ID being lazy, not invoking the same creativity they once had and voiced in the older games, trying to just please the fans rather than making a truly unique Doom experience? Though Eternal wasn't all that different from 2016's Doom mechanically, that is not to say it was a bad game, just that ID potentially found a new format that worked well and stuck with it. Chapter 4. Damnation. The series wasn't always received with overwhelming positivity, which is inevitable for a series of blood, violence and gore, for this franchise often received quite a beating from the media, especially in the past. A good example of this is when 1993 Doom was made part of the reasoning both the public and especially the media used to help rationalise the reason of why two students would do what they did. To give a bit of context, in 1999 around springtime, the media's view was drastically reinforced when a national tragedy befell America, the Columbine Massacre. On the 20th of April, at a high school in Colorado, two troubled teenage students went on a shooting spree at the high school they attended, killing 12 students and a teacher, whilst also injuring more than 20 others. After which, they then turned the guns on themselves, committing suicide. This is considered the fourth worst school shooting in American history. When police investigated their homes of the perpetrators, along with the other evidence, they found that the boys played Doom. This, along with similar incidents, triggered a wide-range debate of violence in media affecting the behaviour of young people, particularly the effects recent video games like Doom were having on their audiences. Even the media in other countries were spreading what was basically propaganda about the risk of video games, with The Guardian, an English newspaper, reporting that Doom was a video game licensed by the US military to train soldiers to kill. This put parents off massively, thinking that the game would turn their children violent and unstable, which forced many young gamers to play Doom only when their parents weren't around. Though this demonization of video games has died out almost completely, it did take a while. As another more recent outcry was with GTA 5, a game released by Rockstar in 2013, where the game supposedly encouraged the players to kill each other in online multiplayer and encourage criminal activity. Which again, like Doom, the media spewed propaganda about this over the news, articles warning parents not to let their children near such a deplorable game. But did this media outcry stop people from playing? No, not at all, as even today people still play Doom, with them being re-released on later consoles for a newer generation of gamers to experience. And if you have not played any of the Doom games, there is no better time, as of this December, the first Doom will be celebrating its 30th anniversary, with its fans celebrating 3 decades of Doom. If you haven't played Doom,
Rip and tear until it is done.